Hola, buenos dias. So, building a design system feels a lot like beachcombing. And if you've never heard of beachcombing, think of it as treasure hunting on the beach. So, I love to go to the beach and look for all the different types of treasures that I can find, different types of shells, mussels, get my feet really wet and cold. And my favorite thing to find are these little exoskeletons called sand dollars. And the beauty of the sand dollar, it is precise and delicate, but as you can see right here, if you don't handle it in the precise way, it's very fragile. And I broke that because a horsefly bit me, and I went, and I broke it. So I equate.
I found one. It was intact.
And it broke it.
And the greenheads bit me. And I broke it.
So, treasure hunts on the beach. That is what beachcombing is. And as you can see, I equate beachcombing and especially finding sand dollars with design systems. Because design systems are perfect treasures mixed with fragility. So, bienvenidos, estoy Catalina y estoy muy feliz ser invitado otra vez de Victoria y Nacho a React Alicante. Welcome everyone, I'm Kathleen McMahon and I'm very happy to be invited back to React Alicante. I am a design engineer, I am a beach lover, I am passionate about accessibility, and I'm here today to present the Beachcomber's Guide to Type-Safe Design Systems. So, before we begin, you can follow me on socials at Resource11. As you know, I'm an engineer, designer, and speaker, and my cats are back. Just for you, Eric. And the shoes. So, as you know, I love design systems and also convincing speakers to wear costumes for me. Did not bring them this time, but I usually have speakers wearing costumes interrupting me on stage. But I love working on design systems because it's like herding kittens and it's chaos, beautiful chaos, but it is so much fun. I've worked on a few design systems before, like O'Reilly Media, Launch Darkly, Northwestern Mutual, and Electronic Arts. And at previous jobs, for example, I'm going to talk about like one story here. So when we're talking about type-safe design systems. Yeah, heavy side because working on design systems. So we set up in our design system a multi-brand theming setup, so types for theming. And some of the devs were creating their own type in their app and just hand coding the values as the themes were released. What could go wrong? So, for example, if we had theme value cat meow, cat purr, cat squeak, and we released cat hiss, they never received cat hiss. Even though they were passing it in, they were passing it in and saying, where are my tokens? Where are my design tokens? Where is everything? They were hard coding everything. And because of that, they were not receiving the updates that we were providing in our packages. So, as you can see here, this is the hard-coded values, names hidden for privacy. And these are the dynamically generated values that we would create from pulling our tokens from Figma variables, because we weren't using Token Studio at the time, pulling the theme variables from Figma, using our token engine to generate everything, process them through style dictionary, and then walk through every single theme name and concatenate a array of values of these are the themes we support right now. And this script would dynamically generate, we'd export it, yet nobody was using it. So if you haven't heard of design tokens, by the way, design tokens are design decisions codified in code. Think of like codifying your color values, your spacing, your fonts. That's what tokens are. But if you type your tokens, you will catch bugs more easily. And that's very important, especially when you're sharing your design system and all teams are ingesting your design system. So, for example, we have this untyped value. Someone, they just add the space large token and they misspelled it. That will fail silently. It will not fail until you get into QA. They're like, why isn't this color showing up as promised? If you type your tokens, that failure will show up at compile time. So you can circumnavigate any of the errors that you're going to have and fix those errors while you're still working on your app before you deploy it. So that's a nice efficiency. Well, you should ask, though, when is a good time to invest in typing your design tokens? Well, if you want to have a design system established and you have multi-brand design system, that makes sense. You can also type things if you want to check for color contrast of your tokens. That is a good idea to add some typing in there. If you're using an MVP or a prototype and you aren't using a design system yet, it doesn't make sense to type your tokens. That's just over-engineering. So your type safety, ooh, I am thirsty. Your type safety depends on your tooling setup. For example, Tailwind. It's straightforward to have typed configs. You can have typed tokens in post CSS and Sass, but you have to run everything through style dictionaries pipeline and output things with type definitions. Same with vanilla CSS. Vanilla CSS can read those type definition files. Style components loves typed components, typed tokens, that is. Now, did I go backwards? I did. Okay. But let's talk about how from fragile to typed before and after case. Before, say you're hard coding things, you don't even have design tokens set up, you're setting your colors and your margins. After, if you set your theme values as these variables, the example on the right up there is for style components. If those values don't exist, you will have an error. And that equates to, think of the sea drift of like everything that comes in from the washes and the tide, all the think of like cruddy shells that are all broken. That's your drift. So you can take your workflow for your tokens from your design, for this example, from design through Figma, or if you have Token Studio, you can use Token Studio plugin, output to JSON, run it through Style Dictionary. You can output it as CSS files. You can output it as TypeScript files. And you can use those to have your styling and your type aligned. What is great about type tokens, they catch things early, like misspelled keys. If you're trying to override things and you haven't typed it, it'll tell you if you can't override that because it's not in the type. It can also, like I mentioned before, check for low contrast colors. So as you can see here, without types, misspelled things will fail silently, they won't render the right things, and they'll get missed in QA. But with types, you can actually check things at compile time, and that's pretty cool. So when you make a component library, there are two, you can use interfaces and type aliases. So you could decide if you want to define your props as interface props, and those are great for if your component is more extendable and generic. But then, say you have a component that has a lot of variance, and you have just a lot of props coming in. You're working with teams that are using your component. They've decided, oh, I found a new use for this component. Can you add this prop and that prop? And I wanted to do this variant, and I wanted to have a click handle, and I wanted to have a focus handle, and I want all these things. If you're moving quickly, you could say, all right, let's just add all those features into an interface type, or even just a type alias, and just go, hey, everyone can have all these types, but certain variants, you may want to exclude types that you don't want to allow, and you want to help guardrail against teams running into bugs, teams inappropriately using props in the component. So how you do that is by using type aliases. For example, let's compare a card versus an alert. So in general, you can have, like with a card, it's pretty predictable. It's a box, usually has a title, has children. Sometimes you can put a photo in it. Sometimes you can put headers and footers in there. It's pretty cool, but it's pretty straightforward. But say you have an alert. What if you have a positive alert, a warning alert, an error alert, and you want to, and you have specific errors for those alerts? So a card would use an interface props. The alert would use type aliases, because you can have a lot more control and reduce the amount of errors with your developers using the components. So how many here work on a design system, by the way? Yes, my people. OK. How many people write the docs, but nobody reads them? That's what I thought. So when you can use type aliases to help guardrail against the times when you're gonna write the docs, but no one's gonna read them. This is a way to help things from breaking and reduce the amount of JIRA tickets where someone's saying, I can't work at this. This is broken. You have to fix this now. It's like, did you read the docs? No? OK, well, you read the docs. But also, let's make some stronger types for you. A lot of times when you are creating these components and you have set up ESLint rules for your code base, especially in component libraries, there are different philosophies on whether you should use interface types or consistently use type aliases everywhere. So I'm going to read this because this is more important because I'm very passionate about this one. So basically, a lot of teams prefer type aliases because it's more generic and it reduces the declaration merging between different interface types. And also, when you're designing a new component, the whole decision fatigue of, should I use a type alias? Should I use an interface? What do I do? So a lot of teams just say, you know what? We're just going to set up ESLint rule, use type alias only. However, what is important is the intent of your component matters. Because yes, you can use interfaces for shapes and types for options. And then, I'm Sorry, I'm just really happy to see sand dollars, so I'm just going to keep popping them in here. They're going to be surprises. But sometimes you need both. For example, take a media card component. There could be some shared props that all the variants use. And there is no reason why you can't define, for example, media card props with all those shared props as one type, one interface. And then you can extend it to add some discriminated unions for, say, if you have a variant where you want to add an informative SVG, where someone has to pass in an SVG and an alt. And another variant is if someone wants to pass in a photo and a photo alt attribute. Now, with the SVG, it's not an SVG alt attribute because you're passing in the actual component. With the SVG, if it's informative, you want to pair it with an ARIA label. But with a photo, you want to pair it with an alt attribute. So there's two different things. And a lot of times, if someone's fairly new to accessibility, they might just throw all the props in there and just, you only live once and see how it works. What's great about combining interface and type aliases is with this, you have the shared props for like title and description. And if you want to have a photo variant, you can combine the base props and the variant props. So, for like the example I was just talking about. Here, you can add these variant media card props and specify if the media type is SVG, you can pass in a node, an ARIA label, but you cannot pass in the photo URL or the alt. You can set that value to never, and that prevents developers from even passing in that prop. If they try to, they'll get an error. Same thing with photos. They cannot pass in SVG or ARIA label because it does not make sense to add those. So combining those two is a very powerful pattern that can work for you. Now, it's really cool because using never, it's a nice way to be forbidding. And I love being forbidding sometimes in design systems because a lot of times you have to make everyone happy and sometimes you're like, no, enough. For example, anti-patterns. Please no. All right, who in here has created a button, a link button? Were you pushed to do it? No, okay. Was it just more efficient, just to combine it all? Just curious. I'm passionate about it, but I'm just curious like why people do it. Anyway, so you can see in that first pattern, button as A. That as prop is the polymorphic prop. So it allows you to pass in, hey, I want your button to render as a link, to pass in as a different level, different element. You're like, wait a minute. A button's not a link and a link's not a button. They're two separate things. Button controls things and a link takes you to a different page or a different location on the page. Completely different action there. Also, link variant button. You're like, well, what does that mean? Does it mean it looks like a button or you don't know? But button as link, it is just such a bad idea. It is the fish and jello, and I have made it into the presentation again. I got my fish and jello image into every single presentation since 2019. And I've done it again today. I've woven it into the story, but yes, just gross, link buttons. Because putting a link as a button or a button as a link is disguising the intent of and the purpose of what the component is used for. And it's breaking the material honesty of the component. Yes, I know there's all these call to actions and they have to look big and they have to look bold. But there are techniques that you can do where you can make a link and style it as a button, and then when you hover, you can make it underlined so it communicates. It looks buttony, but it really is a link, because underline. And buttons never have an underline on the text. So that's a cool way to do it. But yes, gross. And it makes me age faster than that 26-year-old that Dan Neklu shared yesterday. That's me every day. That is why I have this, link buttons. So polymorphic components are really great to add to your design system. But when used with care, using a polymorphic component to pass in that as prop, it's not a great idea using it with the button because, again, it is rendering a button as a link. And it's just making the API weird. So please no. Instead, try this, please. Button, click me. Link, put a prop. Is it styled as a button? True. OK, if it's true, pass in these classes. You have your buttony looking link, but it's still a link. Screen reader will fire up. They'll hear that it's a link. It's just less confusing. Even, a class name, button. So it's going to be styled as a button. So please do it that way if you must. And a button should be a button. A link should be a link. Repeat after me. Yes, now if one person does it, I will be happy. Just one at a time, convince everyone. But what's great about making type-safe components and tokens in your design system is catching your errors at compile time, beats, finding errors at runtime, finding errors in QA, getting that another JIRA ticket, having to do another patch, having to do cut another release and a hotfix and a deploy. It makes your life better when you're doing design engineering. And it's better to have a red squiggle and fix it pre-commit and stop all the drift from the shells polluting your design system before it ends up in QA. And adding types to your design system and sharing it out for teams makes your system scalable. You can publish it once. Every app consumes those types. And whenever you make updates, they receive the updates. There's no drift. Everyone is aligned with the latest updates in the design system. They're not hard-coding things. So to wrap up, I am being slow, Victoria. I'm trying. Tokens can prevent drift in your design system, so less broken seashells. Adding typing helps prevent prop misuse. It improves your confidence at compile time. It helps your system scale. And systems that scale like this are systems that will last. So you don't want a system that just goes into the design system graveyard, that no one works on it anymore, and they just grab something else off the shelf because they just decided not to maintain it and add some type safety and frustrate all the people that are trying to consume it. So I have hundreds of those. I almost brought you all one. Literally, I have jars of them. Maybe I come back next year, I will bring everyone a sand dollar. They're very pretty. But have fun and, one, go beachcombing, and definitely beachcomb through your design system. Rip out the fragile patterns, get those robust patterns, get the type safety in there, and you'll have a design system full of treasures. So beachcomb your design system. Thank you. Gracias.